This is the primordial nature of music and musicians at essence. Music created in a moment with no reason other than that moment's expression. That has always been the case and shall always be, yet Attali focuses on this as a much larger shift, yet to occur from having gone through the process of representation and repeating, to end with an elevated understanding of truly experiencing composition as a collaborative, spontaneous event.
Attali's point of the author and consumer being one and the same is very relevant in the present state of the industry. In We Think, Leadbeater is able to go a few steps further in his predictions due to him being a more contemporary author. More observation has taken place since 1977 when Noise was first published, so there is a more informed stance to work from. In We Think, the idea of the money-music relationship being dissolved and the act of exchange, sharing and payment through recognition is much more prevalent. With free downloads, etc., as contemporary musicians, artists and creators, we are having to adapt within an industry, usually led by money, into one that isn't, yet still find a way for the work to survive.
To step back into the realm of future production of music, there are things happening now that are touching on Attali's idealistic approach of community, yet keeps it within an economic environment. This is the subject of crowdsourcing, coined by Jeff Howe in an article called The Rising of Crowdsourcing, written in Wired magazine in 2006. Howe draws attention to the attempt to make the creative process interactive in producers' drive to remain within an economic market and industry.
A good example of a very recent project is Imogen Heap's latest endeavour, where she created a song in 14 days by opening up the whole process to her fans. Each day with a video instruction of what media type to send her, including music concrete, lyrics, artwork and video to create the whole package by the deadline.
Heap is a great example of someone utilising today's social networking sites, such as Twitter and Facebook, to help create this sense of community and ownership in the hands of people who are listening to her music. This isn't what Attali meant in his chapter on composing, but could this be the manifestation of that ideal in a world driven by money still?
With the advancements in technology and the availability of that technology to the everyday consumer, our society has rapidly become an open market of people taking industry into their own hands. Those who previously consumed are now easily able to produce the products they want in their lives, with things like Etsy.com, GarageBand, photo editing software, phone applications for iPhone and Android, etc. Thus, the prosumer is created.
Money exists as a middleman, a common denominator for use in a world where one skill may not be what another person needs or wants. It levels a field. Yet with the value of things fluctuating so much in recent years, it is near to impossible to place monetary value on art. Perhaps Attali's vision of the future is not so unlike what we are experiencing now, where money is not necessarily being attached to an artistic creation, and the world of sharing in a specific moment is occurring.
The difference being, our sense of community has grown to an extent that is global, allowing for sharing, collaboration and creation to happen between individuals all over the world. Bedroom recordings have expanded to bedrooms of every YouTube user, creating a wealth of possibility, but not perhaps an economic wealth. Unfortunately, it also potentially saturates the market, creating the need to control and restrict our rights as prosumers.
The function of music gradually dissolves when the locus of music changes, when people begin to listen to it in silence and exchange it for money. There then emerges a battle for the purchase and sale of power, a political economy.
In this climate of political economics, the issue of control becomes apparent when asking the question, who in fact owns the so-called open source networks? The future of liberated open connection of the internet is rapidly becoming a closed-sourced media, as have other major telecommunications before.
This is what Tim Wu calls the cycle, with its progression
from somebody's hobby to somebody's industry, from jury-rigged contraption to slick production marvel, from a freely accessible channel to one strictly controlled by a single corporation or cartel, from open to closed system. It is a progression so common as to seem inevitable, though it would hardly have seemed so at the dawn of any of the past century's transformative technologies.
Wu's extensive observations on the changing times of different media types, including the internet, can also be used to predict the future of evolution. He suggests that there is a pattern forming among our media-filled society, where previously open industries have become privatised, increasingly restricted and closed.
Ideally, the web should be used as a way to express ourselves freely and creatively, yet the web also expands the scope for surveillance, not just by the state and corporations, but also by our peers and friends. Every move we make leaves a little wake that can be tracked. Conclusion!
In conclusion, what we are able to see from the above is that whilst Attali's ideas are still very much valid, they are also rather idealistic. And if he were to rewrite noise now, it is very possible that his perception on the future of music would have changed somewhat to incorporate the current changes happening within music.
While some of Attali's predictions from noise are to some extent becoming true, such as the idea that we will all partake in making music together rather than purchasing and listening to music, seen from the creation of prosumers, there is still industry and monetary value associated with this, which is where his prophecy falls short of modern society.
Attali's idea of us all becoming the producers of music comes with the catch-22. Consuming a record by an artist is becoming less of a commodity, meaning record labels are struggling, making less money than ever before. As Wallace points out in a recent article,
revenues are unlikely ever again to reach the levels of the music business's formerly lucrative glory days. Far too often the music industry has failed to justify its prices.
However, other companies are noticing the rising trend of prosumers and making money from offering classes in how to use the latest music software to create their very own music. So, whilst Attali's idea of people making their own music collectively is becoming more and more real, it is rather less idealistic than he had predicted, as we are still having to pay a premium.
More recent ideas, such as We Think, which can be seen as perhaps a more modern and realistic take on Attali's ideas, are becoming extremely relevant to the current situation that music and society as a whole is in. They state that we are currently witnessing possibly the biggest battle of our time, this being the one between mass collaboration and control. For example, the music industry's resistance against web-based music, as initially at least, it means less money for them.
What we are clearly seeing is that we are currently witnessing a huge change in the way not only our music industry operates, but also in the way our world as a whole operates. We are now beginning to see what used to be underground movements such as zeitgeist and crowdsourcing becoming mass phenomena. Now more than ever, people are beginning to think more for themselves, rather than being told what to think by using sources such as the internet, etc., to gain as much knowledge on the subject as possible, rather than getting their information from just one viewpoint.
Exactly what the creation of crowdsourcing, open sourcing, prosumers, etc. means for music, no one can say. However, it is clear that it has proven Attali's idealistic point at least, particularly true in that it is getting more people involved in the actual making of music, as people are now able to gain access to the equipment needed. It is now possible for anyone to have a home studio in their rooms for just a small amount of money.
It is also clear that We Think's points are also becoming true to a point, as we can see that although new ways of thinking are coming about, there are also those who are looking to take these new free ways of thinking and making money from them, and at least for the foreseeable future, this will always be the case. As long as there is a system in place, there is likely to always be people trying to beat it, just as there will always be people trying to manipulate it. In a world that is focused on money still, the people in it are just a product of this mentality. Until we reach a state of self-sufficiency and lack of necessity to survive using a monetary system, music will remain yet another form of income in one way or another.